Where's the European army? There is no European army. Even under NATO, there is no NATO army. It's just dysfunctional. NATO's history. The United States is about ready to pull the plug, and Europe's going to have to wake up to the fact that they're going to need a new military framework that doesn't involve the United States, which means NATO is dead. And that's the best thing that could happen to Europe, and the best thing that could happen to the world is to kill this creature that got Europe turned into being a continent that sought to be defensive in nature, not offending anybody, remembering the lessons of their past imperialism, to now they're okay with bombing Belgrade. Everybody forgets about that. The Russians are bombing a European city. Yeah, because NATO bombed Belgrade. Regime change in Libya, nation building in Afghanistan. I mean, Libya and Afghanistan, they're talking about opening offices in the Pacific. How did NATO become this? It become an extension of American imperial warmongering. And now we have a president that says, we're not doing that anymore. America's redefining its relationship in the world. We're more focused on the economic and less focused on the military. You saw what he said yesterday. Wants to cut the defense budget in half. Wants to engage in nuclear disarmament, real nuclear disarmament. He said there's no need to continue building nuclear weapons. We should be getting rid of them. And the United States is just saying, and here's the thing, we don't care what happens to Europe if they can't get on board. I mean, you have this Callas lady talking about there can't be a peace treaty, without Europe involved. Oh, yes, there can, because you don't matter. Let me remind Europe of two simple facts. You put pressure on Zelensky to change the constitution of Ukraine that said there can be no negotiations with the Russians. And then you said there will be no negotiations with the Russians. And then you said, well, there can only be negotiations when the Russians lose, and therefore we have to build up a military and go to war and bring the Russians down. And now what you have a situation where the Russians ain't going to lose. You're not going to beat them. And the United States got tired of playing your game, so we bypassed you and went straight to the Russians and said, let's fix this thing. And now you have the Europeans and Ukraine saying, well, we demand a seat at the table. You didn't want a table to begin with. You said there will be no negotiation table. Trump and Putin sat down and said, screw you. We're setting our own table. And now you want a seat? You're not getting a seat at this table. Not at all. You can be present. You can serve us. You can be the wait staff. You can clear out the dirty dishes. You can clean up our dirty silverware. You can deliver the food that we're going to eat. But if you think you're sitting down at the table and joining in at the feast, think again. You opted out. And this is the reality. I mean, who the hell does this Callas lady think she is? Does she have any power? None. Zero. Von der Leyen, does she have any power? None. Zero. None. The only thing that gives them power is the fact that there are sufficient nations within the European framework that continue to act in concert based upon what these people say, but not on anything serious. If you don't understand that there has been a fundamental sea change in how America is looking at approaching the world, then I guess you'll continue to be shocked by what's happened here. For me, I'm thrilled to death because this is exactly what I've been saying is the only thing that can save America. And frankly speaking, the only thing that can save the world. America had to redefine its relationship with the world. And Donald Trump's working on doing that. Is he perfect? Nope, not even close. Is everything he's articulating capable of being implemented as articulated? No, but it's a start. It's a start. It's a change. And it scares the hell out of everybody. And that makes me so happy. And one by one, the concept of sovereignty is returning to European states. But every time a European state dares say we're sovereign, we don't support it, they're accused of being a tool of Russia. They're attacked. They're undermined. Nations that wanted to join the European Union, like Georgia, aren't allowed to have free and fair elections, apparently. No, they have to surrender to the outside influences brought in by Europe and the United States, the old United States, not the new United States, because the new United States just dismantled that entire infrastructure, the one that underwrote the most undemocratic activities imaginable in Georgia and elsewhere. And in Europe, we're done. We're finished. Hooray. This is the revolution. I said it was coming. I said it's going to happen domestically, Anybody doesn't think that what's happening here ain't a revolution, you're dumber than dirt. And now it's happening globally. You want to fight the Russians? Have at it. They've kicked your ass regularly. You know, I seem to remember in the history books, Russian troops marching through Paris. Oh, they also marched through Berlin. They'll do it again if that's the game you want to play, you stupid, ignorant punks. But we're not going to back you up. We're not going to support it anymore. We're done with you. Arrest me. When you have cops able to come in and kick down the door and arrest you for posting a meme online, our fellow journalist, Richard Medhurst, is under investigation because he dares speak out about bad policy in Gaza. England's not free. England doesn't represent the values that I cherish. Germany doesn't represent the values that I cherish. Europe doesn't represent the values that I cherish. The country that is actually closer to these values than Europe is Russia. I've been there, seen it firsthand. And I will tell you right now, there's more free speech in Russia. It's not perfect. You can't get away with everything in Russia, but there's more free speech in Russia than there is anywhere in Europe today. And that's for damn sure. I am disgusted by Europe. I don't believe Europe as an entity truly exists. It's this fake thing, the European Union, that's been superimposed over nation states that have forgotten what it means to be a nation state. Sovereignty. And Europe, stick it in your ear. You guys got to pay for your security. I think you're going to see in the next couple of days announcements about the withdrawal of American troops from Europe. We're done with this nonsense. We're done with this mess. Last century, we went across the ocean twice to solve Europe's problems. We're not going to do it again. We're done with you guys. Fix it yourself, especially now that you have, well, at least you had, functioning economies, but you destroyed them. You trashed them by signing up with the sanction. And if you're going to say, well, America made us do it, then that just shows how weak you are. But, America didn't make you do it. The Biden administration made you do it. Had you stood up, maybe it wouldn't have happened. But now we have a new administration, a new sheriff in town that's saying, we're done with you. We're disgusted by you. We don't support you anymore. And he's calling them out. It's the best speech delivered by an American in the history of the Munich Security Conference. The best speech, the strongest speech, and the one that will have the greatest impact, because J.D. Vance put Europe on notice that we're finished with you. And all the Europeans that were thinking America would never unplug, think again. We're done with you. I mean, you are literally the problem. J.D. Vance called it out. You're the problem. Europe's the problem. You create all the problems. Everything could be solved if Europe would just stop being stupid, led by unelected bureaucrats who come in to try and impose an agenda that nobody in Europe supports. Put it up to the vote of the people of Europe. They will not support this ridiculous agenda. And now they're talking about doing the same thing in Germany, annulling a political party because they disagree with the stance that the people of Germany may take by providing their votes to this political party. Europe is this fake conglomerate of political elites and economic elites who seek to service the United States. And that's what they've been doing, servicing the United States economically and politically. But, we've had weak leadership in America that lost track of the fact that we're supposed to be the bosses, and we allowed Europe to take over in Ukraine. Thank God we finally have a president who said, no, we're ending this stupid war, the dumbest of all wars. And J.D. Vance is 100% correct. Don't sit here and pretend that you embrace democracy. I mean, we support Ukraine, a free and democratic. There's nothing democratic about democracy, about Ukraine. It's a military dictatorship, literally, in every way, shape, and form. So don't call it a democracy, but Europe's been confused about what democracy is for a long time. J.D. Vance is 100% correct to call out what happened in Romania, where the Romanian people made a choice for change. The Romanian people made a choice for change. Sovereign people of a sovereign nation. And yet Europe came in and intervened with fake manufactured intelligence, sent it up to the Romanian security services, to Romanian courts, who acted unilaterally to annul the will of the people, only to later on admit, no, there wasn't any Russian interference. None, zero, zip. They just didn't like the outcome. What happens when Donald Trump says, now we're done with NATO? Now Europe's going to have to come in and set their own table. See, Trump and Russia can create their own reality just by coming up with an agreement. Now, there's lip service going to be paid for Europe and this, that, and the other thing. But, the bottom line is they said America's not putting troops on the ground in Europe, in Ukraine. Zelensky said he can't even consider a peacekeeping force without American troops. So now there's not going to be a peacekeeper. But let's say he changes his mind. Okay, I'll take those Europeans. I'll take 100,000 Europeans. But then the United States said, yeah, but you don't get Article 5 protection. So any Europeans that go in there, you're not part of NATO, which means if you piss the Russians off and they kill you all, you're on your own. And there's not a single European nation that's going to do that. So how can Trump make an agreement without Europe? I just told you how. Europe doesn't matter. Trump can make whatever rules he wants to, and Europe will have to fall in. It's an American-based reality as far as Europe's concerned. It's a Russian-based reality as far as solving the issue of Ukraine is concerned. And I think that Trump is willing to do what's necessary to concede to Russian realities. You heard Hegseth talk about it. And so that's the reality. There's going to be no American troops, no NATO. We're cutting off military support for Ukraine, which means Europe's going to have to step up. And, the price tag gets really, really outrageous at this point in time. It's not just, Europe proved they can't afford the 2% GDP that was necessary to make NATO viable. That's why NATO's so weak. But now, in order to, be part of an American participation, they needed to get that number up to 5. None of them can afford that. And now America's pulling out. That participation, taking the lead now is 10 to 15%. It's it. Europe can't take the lead. The realities. I mean, screw Europe. Ukraine will never, ever, ever, ever be a member of NATO. It's as simple as that. I don't care. You can have, Starmer, we are committed to Ukraine being. No, you're not. Remember, NATO is a consensus-based organization. And when Big Daddy says no, that's the end of it. End of discussion. Kids don't no longer get to scream, we want chocolate. Daddy said no. What you got Sweden now? The newbies regretting their vote already to join NATO, saying, no, they're going to be part of NATO. We guarantee it. No, they won't. Ukraine will never, ever, ever be part of NATO. It doesn't matter how many pathetic European leaders come out and say so. It isn't going to happen because Big Daddy said no. So the realities will define this situation. That's how it happens. Because Europe can't do anything. They can't do anything. We'll set the conditions. You have to pay for it all, Europe. You have to go in. No protection from Big Daddy. You want to play big, jump in the playing field with Russia and try to impose some sort of security arrangement in Ukraine without Russian concurrence? It's on you. And when Russia bombs you, Daddy ain't going to be there to help you. They just defined the fact that Europe can't do it. So it's not about keeping the Europeans out. Europe can't even come in and play the game. They can't buy into the table. The United States and Russia have set a high-stakes poker game. And Europe wants to come in with a handful of $5 chips. It doesn't work that way. You got to bring the $1,000 chips and you got to have a whole bunch of them. And they don't. And just imagine this too. I mean, I had to laugh when I heard Trump say that he wants to invite Russia back into the G7. The Russians came out and went, yeah, thanks, but no thanks. We're part of the organization of the largest economies in the world. And the G7, hardly any of those people could qualify. And think about it. Great Britain's economy, non-qualifying. The French economy, the German economy, nope. The Italian economy, nope. Europe doesn't have a functioning economy. I mean, yeah, it's there, but it's not a world leading. This isn't the G7 is no longer the elites that sit down. The Indians are sitting there chewing their meal, going, waving at the Europeans, going, how do you guys like that? We're up here in first class. How's that? You're not even in business class, are you? Yeah, that's right. Economy. The Russians are living large right now. Europe's nothing. They're finished. It's hasta luego. Goodbye. Europe is pathetic. Europe is weak. Europe is nothing, but they can't admit it because they fooled themselves into believing there's something, and they're not. Everything about her exudes artificiality, hypocrisy, but she's a nobody. That's all Europe is. It's economy class, not even the good economy class, where you pay a little bit extra and you get the extra knee space. They're back in the real bad economy class where we're all crammed in. That's all they rate. And soon they're just going to be baggage. They don't even get a seat. So you make the mistake of believing they actually care about Ukraine or trying to do the right thing by Ukraine. They condemned 1 million Ukrainians to die. That's what they did. They did it because they have a artificial understanding of Europe's role in the world. They think Europe's a player. Europe's not a player. Peace through strength. Well, good luck with the strength part. I mean, that's like, me going to the gym with a young Arnold Schwarzenegger and bragging about how strong we are as a team. Strength, baby, strength. We're so strong. And then Schwarzenegger leaves, and I'm left there looking at the weight room going, and everybody's like, where's that strength now, Ritter? I lost Schwarzenegger. Europe only has strength when America's involved. We are the strength. We are the only strong partner out there. No one else in Europe has any strength, any measurable strength. And so why do they keep talking about it? I mean, Europe can't pony up. They don't have anything to put on the table. They don't have any viable military force. None. NATO is a fake entity, a paper tiger, artificiality. It only works with America. We not only have to be the glue that holds it all together, but once we put it all together, we then have to bring in the Schwarzenegger-like character to be the real strength, because Europe is just a pathetic old man who can't lift weights anymore, like me. So I don't know why we keep playing her, and I don't know why we keep playing Collis, and I don't know why we keep playing any of these European officials. They don't matter. The only people in Europe that matter are national leaders. But the national leaders that have subordinated themselves to Europe have made themselves irrelevant, like Olaf Scholz. Look at the panic of Scholz right now. I have to declare a national emergency now. Why? Because America's not backing us up. Oh, you've decided you want to be a sovereign nation state now, a national emergency, because you realize that Europe is fake. And America's not there to hold your hand. And wait till he finds out we're pulling out 20,000 troops. I mean, I think that's the number. It might be more. Because we're just done with Europe. Europe is a failed experiment. The thing about Europe is that they don't have, a common, election-based mechanism to get their officials. Each state has different things, but what you're seeing is one by one, they're falling, they're collapsing, they're being purged out. Eventually, Scholz's history. I mean, J.D. Vance wouldn't even meet with him. You saw that, right? You know why he wouldn't meet with him? Because he ain't going to be in power much longer. Why waste the time? He's a nobody. Perfect response. And we should do the same thing to the French. Figure it out, guys, and then we'll meet with you. But I mean, why waste time talking to Emmanuel Macron or his prime minister when the prime minister is an illegitimate prime minister shoehorned in by Macron because he can't accept the electoral results that took place in France. He can't accept the will of the people. You want America to meet with that, to endorse that. Europe will have to purge itself of these political elites, and they're not going to self-purge. They can't. They have committed to a course of action that they can't reverse away from. And so the only way they get removed is through the power of the vote. The former French citizens, the former German citizens who have sold out any concept of national sovereignty in favor of this broad brush thing called Europe that doesn't exist. These people have committed too much political and economic capital into this failed enterprise. And it's the same thing I said about the Iraq war. America went to war on the basis of a lie, but how are we going to change that? It isn't going to change because America suddenly woke up and realized it was wrong. It changed because the politicians who committed political capital to the Iraq problem, they had to leave. You needed several election cycles to purify the congressional pool, so to speak, so that people could change voting outcomes and not lose their political jobs. I was just told, I was invited to go to Germany. I'm not going to Germany. Want to know why I'm not going to Germany? Because if somebody asked me a question about Gaza and I spoke the truth about Gaza, and I'm not going to do that. You Germans can stick it in your ear. Fix your problems. You want to claim to be a democracy? Then by God, support free speech. Be strong enough to handle criticism. You don't have to say Scott Ritter's right. But by God, if you're going to arrest me for saying what is so frickin' obviously the truth, then the hell with you. And that's the American approach. You really think we're going to go spend our tourist dollars in Europe anymore? I mean, Paris used to be the city of lights. It's now a gutter, an open sewage. Germany, who hell knows what's going on in Germany anymore? You know, there's a few places in Europe that maybe we can go to. Sweden's a disgusting cesspool. They've stopped being Europe. They've stopped being sovereign nations. What the hell is a German anymore? They practiced open borders to the point where they've diluted the integrity of the German DNA pool. You don't even know what a German is anymore. I'm just saying that there are Germans, there are French, there are Italians, there's Poles, there's Bulgarians. These are people with a proud history, and they should embrace that history. Doesn't mean you can't intermarry. I married a frickin' Georgian. You know, I'm proud of that fact. America's a nation of immigrants. I'm all for it. But, you know, she took not only the oath, but she took a test to become an American citizen. She knows more about the Constitution of the United States and basic civics of the United States than 98% of the natural-born Americans, because she takes being an American seriously. She's bought into this game, who we are and what we are as a nation. What the hell is Europe? I mean, even when it was first envisioned, we had old Europe and new Europe. You remember Donald Rumsfeld, saying, well, we don't care about old Europe. We're embracing new Europe. Well, New Europe is the Eastern nations that used to be under, Soviet rule. You know what's pretty interesting about the Eastern states? I don't agree with half their politics, but the purest European states there are out there. Poles are Poles, Czechs are Czechs, Slovakians are Slovakians, Estonians are Estonians, Lithuanians are Lithuanians, Latvians are Latvians. For better or for worse, at least we know who the hell we're dealing with. Germans? What's a German anymore? French? I don't know. Go to Marseille and tell me you can identify what a Frenchman is. And I'm not here. When I was with the United Nations, I dealt with French officers who were damn well French, and they let you know it, but they happened to come from the Caribbean, from French colonies. But they went to France. They put on the uniform of the French army. They spoke French fluently. And while they could enjoy Creole food and things like that, they were French. They identified as French. They said, I am a Frenchman. You can have a black person in France to be from Senegal and say, I am French, and I'll believe it because they identify as French. The problem is France is populated by people who don't identify as French anymore. They identify as something else, and that doesn't work. If you're going to live in Germany, buy into the German game. Don't come in and say, no, we're going to have our own Sharia court. The hell you are. It's Germany. They don't do Sharia law in Germany. If you want to do Sharia law, go to a place that does it. Go to live in Afghanistan. Go to modern Syria. Go to wherever the hell you want to go. But don't go to Germany. Don't go to Sweden. Don't go to France. Those are European nations with their own culture, their own history, their own background. And they've forgotten about that. That's why there is no France anymore. That's why there is no Germany anymore, because they stand for nothing. And that the mistake was calling it all Europe. In Germany, you have Turks, you have Kurds who identify as Germans. They are Germans. They know damn well what they bought into. They say, I want to be part of this culture. But then you have others who say, no, we're not. Well, if you're separate, then don't live in Germany. Live where you want to identify with, but don't try and bring that to Germany. It's the same problem we have in the United States. This is a nation of immigrants. And I'm so damn proud of the immigrant communities. And I respect their culture. I mean, what makes America great? I mean, just right here, I can go to an Italian restaurant, a Mexican restaurant, Chinese restaurant. I mean, the food is everywhere. We can enjoy. We just had Chinese New Year. Cinco de Mayo is a holiday that I proudly go out and watch. Celebrate. I'm not Mexican, so I don't celebrate with it, but I watch it. I respect their right to. This is the melting pot. It's beautiful. But at the end of the day, every one of these communities who embrace their own cultural identities are Americans. They believe in the American system. They believe in the American dream. They embrace the American laws. They embrace the values. And I'm proud to call them my fellow citizens. But if somebody comes in and says, no, we're doing a carve out. Not in my country, you're not. You don't do a carve out in America. You don't get to create your own little whatever it is you want to call it. Go home if that's what you want. When you come here, you embrace the big picture. And Europe's lost faith with that. And I think J.D. Vance is just expressing the frustration of most Americans about what Europe has become. We no longer identify with that. I come from European stock. Half my family comes from Germany, the other half primarily from, Scotland, Scotch-Irish. But if you're today, I don't think I could recognize Germany as Germany anymore. And I damn sure I'm not going to England because, the home of the Magna Carta, the home of freedom and all this kind of stuff, it ain't free anymore. And you're seeing as nations start to regain a sense of sovereignty. And in Germany, I know it comes under a lot of criticism, but Alternative for Deutschland, AfD, is all about being German. Some people say, oh, I'm saying they're proud of being German. Maybe that is racist. If you identify as a German, you identify as a race, perhaps, and that makes it racist. And then I can't say it's a bad thing to identify as a German. It's a good thing if you're a German, just like identifying being a Frenchman as a French person. That's a good thing, I believe. Being Italian, that's a good thing. What's bad is saying I'm European when you're really German. What's bad is saying I'm European when you're really French. And right now you have these people that have forgotten who they are. If you're a German, you cannot support continued engagement in Ukraine because you're committing national suicide doing so. Your economy can't sustain it. You'll never build up the military, but you're committed on a course of action that's going to destroy Germany, bring harm to the German people because of some European value. There is no European value. It's just that the Europeans bought into this lie called Ukraine, and they can't disengage right now because there's no mechanism for disengagement. We just told Europe. I mean, remember, it wasn't just but a year ago that we had a president talking about the sacred obligation of the United States to Europe. There was no sacred obligation. He was part of the establishment that had transatlantic bonds with the European establishment, and they played off of each other. It's not about the American people. The American people don't have a sacred obligation to Europe if Europe's job is to undermine American democracy. And we take umbrage at any notion. When I have the British saying that they can come across the water and arrest me and take me away because of a post I put on the internet, I say, bring it on. And I love J.D. Vance. Bring it on, Europe. You want to do this? You want to play that game against us, America? You want to call it the ugly American? I don't care. I don't care anymore because we're trying to break free of the old ugly America. We've got a president that says that we shouldn't be running around, trying to solve problems militarily, that these are economic issues. Yeah, he'd like to flex America's economic muscles. Good luck with that. I don't know how strong those muscles are, but he's done with the war game. He's done with playing the bomb game, and yet the world seems upset with this. And I'm sick and tired of that. If you want to bomb the world, Europe, build your own damn airplanes, build your own damn bombs, and pay the damn consequence. Don't expect us to do it for you. We're not talking about Russia attacking Poland. We're talking about Poland threatening Russia by initiating offensive military operations that they don't have the ability to do. So no, nobody's a threat to Russia. And that's the reality. And because Russia knows this, Russia's not overreacting. Russia's done what is necessary to strengthen its borders because Finland and Sweden joined NATO. Russia has to respond. That's why they have 70,000 troops in the new St. Petersburg military district. So they solved that problem. They reinforced Kaliningrad as necessary. They reinforced up in the Kola Peninsula as necessary. They've given Belarus nuclear weapons and Oreshnik. Again, come on, Poland, really bring it on. Nothing that Lukashenko would like to any more than to go release the Oreshnik and let 9 Belarus Oreshniks fire into Poland and kill everything it touches. There's not a single European nation that threatens Russia. There's not a collection of European nations that threaten Russia. Poland's nothing. Nothing. Literally nothing. What are they going to do? Invade? Poland will do nothing. Nobody in Europe will do anything. They can't. I, again, ask people to take a look at the true state of affairs of the Polish military. They may have a lot of soldiers, but now try and take those soldiers, organize them in a fashion where they can project power in an offensive strike, thrusting deep through Belarus, through Ukraine to actually threaten Russia. Imagine the logistics problems that are created by that, lines of communication. Then imagine them trying to survive as the Russians, destroy their entire logistical infrastructure in Poland with longer-range strike missiles that Poland doesn't have a defense against, destroys the Polish Air Force in place, destroys Polish command and control, destroys the Polish energy infrastructure, and isolates and annihilates every one of the troops that got extended forward. The entire Polish army would be destroyed. That's the true reality of NATO. It's a joke, it's a farce, it's fake. And now you have the Europeans talking about creating a European army. With what command structure? How is that going to work? Are the French going to subordinate themselves to the Poles? Because the Poles say, we're a frontline state. We have to be in command. You think Germans are going to let the Polish command German troops? It isn't going to happen. America commands because we kicked everybody's ass. We were large and in charge. But when we withdraw, the British? What moral authority do the British have? How many troops they could bring? They used to have the British Army on the Rhine, 90 to 100,000 strong. Not anymore. Now they can't even fill up a soccer stadium. So the British are going to be in charge. The Poles, no one's going to listen to the Poles. The French, they've got nothing. They can't bring anything. The Germans, they're confused. There's going to be an election coming up, in March? And AfD may win. And when that happens, God help Europe. Because you think J.D. Vance, put a turd in the punch bowl with his speech in Munich? Wait till AfD says, yeah, we're out of the European Union. And then now Sikorsky's great plan for a year. There will be no more Europe. Germany withdraws from the European Union. It's dead. It's gone, finished. So it's all fantasy right now. It's just stupid. Sikorsky's the same idiot that posted a photograph of the gas bubbling up after the Nord Stream attack and said, thank you, America. This is the level of intellectualism that we're dealing with here. So why do you take anything this man says seriously? He's not a serious player. He's a Russophobe. He's irrational, and his words have no link to real power. Nothing he says is going to happen at all.